Welcome back, kitchen dwellers. Now that we are mostly staying home, let's share some tips on how to buy, prepare, and store larger quantities of meat. Everybody is utilizing their freezers quite a bit more these days, so let's try to make our meat last longer and taste better. We will be demonstrating with a strip of tenderloin today, and this method will work on most proteins you buy. So when it comes to freeze storing large portions of meat, instead of just throwing a big chunk in there and hoping for the best, I always encourage everyone to vacuum seal pre-cut portions. This way it takes less space for easier storage, has almost no frost forming on the meat so it will last longer and taste better, and also it is easier to cook by portion or cook by the method of sous vide cooking, which we will demonstrate later on. What we have here is a big chunk of beef tenderloin, and we will be cutting them into 3 types of cuts. First will be a steak cut between 1 and 2 inches thick, so this will yield between 6 and 10 different steaks. Second is going to be a center cut for a roast or a beef Wellington of sorts, and at last there will be end trimming pieces which will be part of meatballs later on. The process is quite simple actually. Basically, consider each portion of your own serving and then just cut them to either 1 or 2 portions per bag. The small end piece here will be cut off and saved for meatballs later, and then begin cutting into steaks. When we get to the middle part where it is the most even roundness, we will cut a bigger chunk for a roast and continue on with the more steak cuts until we hit the end with another end of the end trimming piece. If you were doing, say, larger pieces of pork shoulders or different kind of the larger cuts of beef, you can just portion them for each meal. So if you want to do, say, like enough meat for a stew, maybe do a few hundred grams for each side, depending on your own family's intake. Now, if you're just looking for storage, you can go ahead and start to vacuum seal these meats already. And what I'm doing here is actually pre-applying some of the flavors to the steak pieces. So when I'm ready to have them, I would actually sous vide cook them. And because I'm vacuum sealing these herbs inside the bag, I can just take it from the freezer to the steam oven right away. All you need to do is just apply some regular steak herbages in the likes of rosemary and thyme, garlic and shallots perhaps. I am seasoning now with a little bit of a salt and pepper for these steaks, but actually after different trials and everything, it turns out having no salt on the meat will actually make the steak taste better. Of course, there will be salt added later on, but that's normally just before we start searing the steaks. So as my other video on the top right corner right now will explain, sous vide cooking is going to be pre-cooking the meat to a proper temperature and then finishing them on a hot pan. So we actually add the salt just before we finish them. When it comes to vacuum sealing, any good vacuum sealer will do. Now, Miele does make a built-in vacuum drawer. However, if you're not crazy rich or perhaps just a little crazy, I would recommend against getting it because it's going to be a lot of money, around $3,000 for something you can get for perhaps $30 like the one that I'm using right here. However, I have recently upgraded to a good quality Food Saver brand vacuum sealer for around $200 or so, and I've been liking it so far. So after a bunch of preparing and sealing, we have these, the tenderloin yield and also a bunch of different steaks, and of course the end trims for putting into meatballs. And these are ready for freezer already, or of course we can put them into the steam oven or your sous vide machine for sous vide cooking as well. Now, behold my freezer. This is going to be for a different set of meat, but the left picture is actually when the meat was put in there fresh, immediately after vacuum sealing them, and then the right hand side picture is after a week of storing in the freezer, and as you can see, there is almost no frost forming, meaning that when defrosted, this will taste way better. Meanwhile, if you did prepare your steak like I did, it's time to actually cook a steak. Simply go to your sous vide machine, or of course in our case the combination steam oven, and select sous vide 135 degrees Fahrenheit at around an hour and 30 minutes or so for straight out of freezer steaks. If you're cooking fresh or at room temperature, about an hour will do already. After the sous vide timer is done, take the steak out, pat it dry, drizzle some olive oil on top, apply some salt and pepper if you have not done so already, and then into a hot pan for some nice sear. Once again, if you do need to learn about how the sous vide works and everything, I do have a separate video which I will link at the end of the video as well. But for this moment, let's just enjoy some really well cooked steak. And this is going to be perfect every single time, straight out of your freezer into your oven. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this will be able to help somebody in staying home for longer and staying safe while enjoying some good food. If you have any questions or other appliance related questions, feel free to drop a comment or message me directly. We are of course under limited operations during this time of the year, and potentially we can be reached at the number on the screen. We'll be glad to help you out. Just ask for Angelo. Thank you for watching, and I hope I was able to improve your home appliance experience. If you found my content helpful, please like, subscribe, and most importantly, share with others who needs these info. All of the contents will be categorized by appliance type on my channel for more tips and how-tos. These contents are based on my personal experience and opinion. Miele Limited does not sponsor, support, or dictate any of the contents created here. Social media connections are on the screen, as well as some other related videos. Have fun in the kitchen!